he's the best. He's
Yeah.
such a good guy. He's such a good actor, and we just always talk about when we do scenes together, we feel very lost.
Sara Gilbert was the quiet genius behind some of television's biggest moments. Most people remember her as the smart and sarcastic Darlene from Roseanne, but her real life was far more complicated than fans ever realized. She helped build hit shows, revived a broken sitcom, graduated from Yale University with honors, and became one of the creators of The Talk. But behind all that success was a woman silently struggling to figure out who she really was. For years, Sara carried heartbreak, pressure, and painful secrets while trying to make everyone else happy. And the saddest part? While she was helping save careers and build television history, she was slowly losing pieces of herself along the way. Today, we're talking about the tragedy of Sara Gilbert, the story nobody fully saw coming. Born into a legacy she never asked for. Sara Gilbert was born Sarah Rebecca Ables on January 29, 1975, in Santa Monica, California. Right away, her life came loaded with pressure she did not choose. Her grandfather on her mother's side was Harry Crane, one of the writers and co-creators of The Honeymooners, one of the most iconic sitcoms in the history of American television. Her mother, Barbara, was a Hollywood producer and talent manager. So before Sara could even walk properly, she was already surrounded by the entertainment business in the deepest way possible. But the biggest pressure did not come from her grandfather or her mother. It came from her sister. Melissa Gilbert, Sara's older adopted sibling, was already a major star. Melissa played Laura Ingalls on Little House on the Prairie, one of the most beloved family shows of the 1970s. Her brother, Jonathan Gilbert, was also on that show. So when Sara was just 6 years old, and she watched Melissa receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, something clicked in her little brain. She turned to her mother right there and said she wanted to be an actress too. At just 6 years old, Sara had already watched her older sister receive one of Hollywood's biggest honors. That moment lit something inside her. She was not only inspired, she was already chasing a huge standard. And without realizing it, that pressure would stay with her for the rest of her life. She started with a Kool-Aid commercial, then small TV movie appearances, and then, in 1984, she made a decision that tells you everything about who she was becoming. She dropped her birth name Ables and took the last name Gilbert, connecting herself permanently to the family legacy. She was 9 years old when she made that choice. Darlene and the Double Life. At 13 years old, Sara Gilbert walked into the audition for a new ABC sitcom called Roseanne and changed the entire course of her life. She was cast as Darlene Connor, the sarcastic, sharp, creative middle child of a working-class family in Illinois. The show debuted in 1988 and became an absolute phenomenon. At its peak, Roseanne was one of the most watched programs on American television, and Sara's portrayal of Darlene was a massive part of why. Here is what makes this part of the story so fascinating and so heartbreaking at the same time. The role fit Sara almost perfectly, but not for the reasons the producers expected. Darlene was rebellious. She pushed back against authority. She was uncomfortable in her own skin, always searching for something she could not quite name. She was creative and intelligent, but also restless and sometimes depressed. Audiences watched Darlene and thought she was a great fictional character. What they did not know was that so much of what Sara was putting on screen was not acting at all. It was her real life, and she was not even old enough to fully understand it herself. While the cameras were rolling and America was falling in love with Darlene Connor, Sara Gilbert was privately going through something that she would not be able to name out loud for almost 2 decades. She was beginning to understand that she was gay. And in the Hollywood of the late 1980s and early 1990s, That was not information you could share with anyone. Not with the public, not with your employers, barely even with yourself. So she kept it locked away. And she went to work every day and played a character who wore her pain on the outside, while Sara's own pain stayed completely hidden on the inside. Yale, Johnny Galecki, and the secret she carried. This is where most videos about Sara Gilbert either skip over or get completely wrong, and it is actually the most important part of understanding who she is. While filming Roseanne as a teenager, Sara began dating her co-star Johnny Galecki, who played her on-screen boyfriend David. Off-screen, they genuinely liked each other. Sara has said publicly that she thought he was sweet and that she had a real crush on him. And for a little while, they were together. But something was wrong, and Sara could not explain it. Every time they were together romantically, she would start to feel deeply depressed. Johnny, who was a kind and sensitive person, noticed it and started to blame himself. He thought he was doing something wrong. He could not figure out what the problem was because Sara had not figured it out yet either. Eventually, she told him the truth. She told him that she believed her sadness had nothing to do with him and everything to do with the fact that she was gay. And Johnny Galecki, to his enormous credit, responded with nothing but love and support. He kept her secret for years. He protected her completely. And when Sara finally decided, more than 20 years later, to talk about this story publicly, she called Johnny beforehand to ask if it was okay. He told her he was proud of her and offered to sit beside her and hold her hand while she spoke. Meanwhile, during all of this, Sara was doing something that no other major television star of her era was doing. She was going to college. Not just any college, Yale University, one of the most academically demanding schools in the world. The producers of Roseanne liked Sara so much that they rearranged the entire production schedule to make it work. They started filming earlier in the season. They set up a separate soundstage in New York so Sara could film her scenes without leaving Connecticut. They flew cast and crew to New York during her Christmas breaks and spring breaks. All of that just to keep her on the show while she pursued her education. She graduated in 1997 with honors, with a degree in art and a concentration in photography. The same year Roseanne ended its original run, the decade everyone forgot. After Roseanne ended, something happened to Sara Gilbert that is almost never discussed. She disappeared. Not completely, but close enough that most people today have no memory of this chapter of her life. She kept working. She appeared in movies including Poison Ivy alongside Drew Barrymore, Riding in Cars with Boys, High Fidelity, and Light It Up. She had recurring roles on ER, 24, Will and Grace, and The Big Bang Theory, where she played a scientist named Leslie Winkle alongside her old friend Johnny Galecki. But none of it stuck in the way Roseanne had. None of it turned into something permanent or defining. And for a woman as driven and talented as Sara Gilbert, that had to sting. Sara was not just waiting for the right role to come along. She was doing something much harder and much quieter. She was learning how to be a person. She was building a real life away from the cameras. She was in a long-term relationship with television producer Allison Adler, with whom she eventually had 2 children, a son named Levy Hank, born in 2004, and a daughter named Sawyer Jane, born in 2007. And she was still not public about any of it. She and Allison were together for roughly a decade. They built a family together. And for most of that time, Sara kept that entire part of her life completely out of the press. She did not come out publicly until 2010. In 2010, 2 enormous things happened for Sara Gilbert at the same time. She came out publicly and she launched The Talk. The Talk was Sara's idea from start to finish. She had been attending mothers' groups after the birth of her daughter Sawyer, and she noticed something. Women were having raw, honest, funny, complicated conversations with each other about life in ways that television had never really captured. She thought there was a show in that. She brought the idea to CBS, and on October 18, 2010, the talk premiered. Sara co-hosted alongside Julie Chen, Sharon Osbourne, Aisha Tyler, and Cheryl Underwood. The show was an immediate success. It won Daytime Emmy Awards. It consistently pulled in over 1 million viewers per episode. It gave Sara a platform unlike anything she had ever had before. A place where she could be herself, talk honestly, and actually control the narrative around her own life. And she used it. In 2013, she sat down on that show and told the story about Johnny Galecki and her teenage years, and the depression and the secret she had been keeping. With Johnny sitting nearby, she walked the audience through one of the most vulnerable moments of her public life. But even then, she said she was scared. Even then, with all her success and her show and her Emmy and her platform, she admitted that talking about being gay still made her feel afraid of what it was doing to her career. That is important to sit with. Sara Gilbert built one of the most successful daytime talk shows in a generation. She was an executive producer and a co-creator. She had real power, and she still felt scared. She left the talk in August 2019, after 9 years. She posted a message on social media thanking her co-hosts and the audience. At her final taping, her daughter Sawyer performed an original song she had written called Mama. The whole studio was in tears. Sara said she was leaving to focus on other opportunities. That was true, but it was also true that her marriage had just fallen apart. Her most beloved show had just been destroyed by scandal, and her entire professional life was in the middle of being completely rebuilt from scratch. She needed to go. The Roseanne disaster and the impossible choice. In 2018, Roseanne came back. Sara was one of the key architects of the revival. She was an executive producer. She had worked hard to bring the original cast together, to make the show relevant again, to honor what it had originally meant to American families. And it worked. The Roseanne revival debuted to massive ratings. It was the #1 broadcast show of the season. Sara had done it. Then Roseanne Barr posted a racist tweet. On May 29, 2018, Barr made a comment online about Valerie Jarrett, a black woman who had served as a senior advisor to President Obama. The tweet was widely condemned as racist. Within hours, ABC canceled the show. Sara put out a statement almost immediately. She said that Barr's comments were abhorrent and did not reflect the beliefs of the cast or crew. She said she was proud of the show they had made but stood behind ABC's decision. And then Roseanne Barr turned on her. Barr said publicly that Sara had destroyed the show and destroyed her life with that tweet. She compared her to a villain from Silence of the Lambs. She said it was not enough that Sara had stabbed her in the back, and then she had gone on her talk show every day to talk about how shocked she was. That had to be devastating. This was a woman Sara had spent her teenage years working alongside. A woman whose show had launched Sara's entire career. And now that woman was publicly blaming Sara for the consequences of her own words. But Sara did not walk away. Instead, she did something extraordinary. She pitched a spin-off. She proposed keeping the entire cast except Barr, killing off the Roseanne character in the first episode, and continuing the family's story. The show would be called The Connors. ABC said yes. The Connors premiered in October 2018. In the show, the Roseanne character dies of an accidental opioid overdose. Sara was now the lead actress and the executive producer of her own show, built from the bones of the one that had just burned down. The Connors ran until 2025. 7 seasons. It was, by any measure, a success. But it never reached the heights of the original revival. And Sara carried the weight of that the whole time. 2 divorces and the price of reinvention. Behind everything that was happening publicly, Sara's personal life was quietly unraveling. After she and Allison Adler ended their relationship in 2011, Sara began dating singer and songwriter Linda Perry, who had fronted the band Four Non-Blondes. Linda proposed to Sara in 2013 with a series of T-shirts that spelled out the question. They married in 2014. In February 2015, Sara gave birth to their son, Rhodes Emilio Gilbert Perry. For a while, they seemed genuinely happy. They even released a children's album together called Dear Sounds in 2015. They had a blended family with 3 kids. Sara spoke warmly about Linda and about what their family meant to her. But by August of 2019, the marriage was over. Sara filed for legal separation in December of 2019, citing irreconcilable differences. The divorce was not finalized for 5 years. It was settled quietly, with both parents committed to co-parenting Rhodes along with Sara's older children. In the same 6-month window in 2019, Sara lost 3 massive pillars of her life. She left the talk in August after 9 years. Her marriage fell apart, and she was simultaneously dealing with the ongoing fallout from the Roseanne cancellation and the pressure of building the Connors into something sustainable. All of that at once. All of it in the same season. Most people know 1 or 2 of those truths. Very few people have ever connected them together and understood what that year must have actually felt like. She had spent her entire adult life building her career, her show, her family, her identity, and in a matter of months, enormous pieces of all of it fell apart at the same time. And she kept showing up to work. What makes Sara Gilbert's story so heartbreaking is something most people still never talk about, even today. Sara Gilbert spent her life being the person who made things work for everyone else. She held the Roseanne revival together. She held the Connors together. She built the talk and handed it to CBS on a silver platter. She protected Johnny Galecki's feelings as a teenager, even while she was privately falling apart. She co-parented with 2 different exes with apparent grace and dignity. She put her kids first, even as her professional world kept exploding. She is, by almost every measure, someone who keeps things together. But the tragedy is that very little of it was ever fully for her. The girl who wanted to be an actress at 6 because she saw her sister get a star. The teenager who hid who she was because the industry told her she had to. The woman who still felt scared to talk about being gay even after she had won Emmys and built empires. She was always performing stability, always absorbing the cost, always finding a way to rebuild. The question nobody ever really asks is, what did all of that cost Sara Gilbert herself? Sara Gilbert, today. The Connors concluded in 2025 after 7 seasons. Sara was a star and a producer until the very end. She has 3 children. She co-parents with both of her former partners. She has a production company. She has a net worth estimated around $30 million. She has 2 Emmy nominations and a Daytime Emmy win. She has a star-studded career that has lasted almost 40 years. By any external measurement, she is a success. But the story of Sara Gilbert is not really a story about success in the way Hollywood usually tells it. It is a story about what it costs a person to grow up gay in an industry that punished you for it. It is a story about what it means to spend your teenage years on screen while carrying a secret that you are terrified will ruin you. It is a story about a woman who quietly built everything and equally quietly watched major pieces of it fall apart and who kept going anyway. She never made her pain the headline. She never melted down on television. She never wrote a tell-all book. She just kept working, kept rebuilding, kept showing up. That is either the most resilient thing you have ever heard or the saddest. Maybe it is both. Sara Gilbert is 51 years old now, and her story is far deeper than most people ever realized. Behind the success of Roseanne and The Talk was a woman carrying pressure, heartbreak, and hidden struggles for decades while helping build television history. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories.